Hello and welcome to In the Director's Chair. I'm Jason Solomons and my guest on this edition of In the Director's Chair is the Hollywood Oscar-winning director William Friedkin. William, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Jason.
The occasion is, of course, your Oscar-winning film, The French Connection, which is out on Blu-ray.
We told you people were coming back. We're going to keep coming back here until you clean this bar up. Keep your eye on your neighbor. If he drops something that belongs to you. What is this, a hospital here? Huh? Turn around there, fella. What do we got here, huh? This belong to you? Huh? Stand up there, naughty. Get your hands on your head. Get in there! You want to take a ride there, fat man?
What you get now is a film that speaks of a kind of a world that's disappeared, if you ask me. New York doesn't look like the New York that you captured there.
Well, it does in those particular places. You know, these were mostly offbeat locations. The New York that most people see is pretty much the same, only more so. But the off-the-beaten-path locations where I filmed, near Coney Island, where The Chase was filmed, all that stuff is still around, and it's still, you know, not on any tourist map.
You storyboard a film like that?
I didn't storyboard.
Okay.
No, I had it in my mind's eye almost from the second that I undertook to make the film. I envisioned it. I got a sense of it, much in the way I imagine that a composer does when they hear a melody. Maybe it's only a fragment of a melody and then it becomes a symphony. But I had more than a fragment in my mind's eye. I knew exactly what I wanted to see and how I wanted it to look. And then it was a matter of going out and doing it.
In a way, the miniature of that chase is the kind of hopping on and off of the subway train that Gene Hackman and Fernando Rey do. So wonderfully. I mean, it's a kind of miniature game of cat and mouse, but it becomes more and more sweaty, and they go to the phone booth, and they go to the grape juice stand, and then they get back on. How do you film something like that?
For the rest of the week, we'd shoot something else, and then go in on a weekend when there were less likely to be people all over the place and film The Chase. But it was done out of sequence. So you have to keep this in your mind's eye, because the director's the only one who really knows what this shot hooks up to and where it's going to.
Do you remember the excitement that you had when you were filming it, or was it such a logistical nightmare that you don't get the kineticism of the actual film sequence?
It's not exciting to film any sequence, even the most brilliant action sequence ever filmed. It's done one shot at a time. It's like knitting or crocheting. Knit one, purl two. That's exactly what filmmaking is.
And we look back on that time now, William, obviously often they say it's a Hollywood heyday. It's the time of the Mavericks. It's the time of Jack Nicholson coming to the fore, of Coppola, Scorsese, everyone finding their way. Did you feel part of that at the time?
No, we all knew each other, but we didn't think we were part of a movement. We were mostly influenced by European films. That was what united us. Prior to that, filmmaking seemed to be it had not changed stylistically from the 1940s. You know, you'd set up the camera, usually with one lens, let the actors parade on by. If you had an action scene, the camera simply recorded it. The camera did not participate. And what we did, what the French New Wave did, the camera was set free, you know, just to fly out with the characters. And that's what we were able to do with our films in that time.
Also, back in those days, I presume sequels weren't really what people did very often. It was a very unusual thing to have a sequel. There was obviously a sequel to French Connection, one that you weren't involved in.
No, I haven't seen any of the sequels to any of my films, and there have been several made. I haven't seen the Exorcist sequels.
And a prequel as well, The Exorcist.
Whatever they're called, they have absolutely no interest to me, whatever.
Because at the time of the second one, you'd already moved on to The Exorcist, and if we may just touch on that. One of my favourite scenes in The Exorcist is where when he goes for the scan and the hospital machinery is moving around him.
Most people say that the scariest scene in The Exorcist is the angiogram scene because it's the most realistic.
Yes.
And it's the one that most people identify with, being in a hospital, a sort of a captive audience, while this weird equipment is circulating around you to determine what's inside of you. It's very science fiction, but true.
Your work seems to be about the constrictions of rules and codes that then the protagonist then tries to break out of, or at least makes an attempt to.
Well, most of the films I've made are about people who have few alternatives, if any. And they're all about obsession and the thin line between the policeman and the criminal, between the good American soldier and the bad enemy, whoever that is.
That's like when you had Tommy Lee Jones and Samuel L. Jackson and Guy Pearce in Rules
That's
of
a film
Engagement.
I really love.
Yes, it was a film that was quite misunderstood, I think, at the time.
Well, a lot of people thought it was American jingoism, but it really was more a commentary about the futility of warfare. And as The French Connection is about the futility of law enforcement.
And is that what you like, the reality to fuel your fictions that you can then spin off on?
I always have to think about how real these characters are to me in order to make a film about them. You know, not necessarily that they existed in some actual case, but I have to recognize a truth in them. I direct a lot of operas now.
Yes,
and I have to find the same thing in those characters.
Yeah.
There's no chases in them, but I have to see the reality of the people that I'm portraying.
You're telling me that people have been flocking to your operas and then coming out going, yeah, I went to see Friedkin's opera. There's no car chase in that. It was so boring.
There's an equivalent, though, to a chase in all of my operas.
Do you remember the night you got the Oscar?
Oh, it was something I wasn't quite prepared for. And on that evening itself, the Academy gave a special Academy Award to Charles Chaplin. And he had been blackballed from the States for many years. And on that particular occasion, Chaplin was given an honorary Academy Award. He'd never won one. And I remember meeting him and how thrilled I was to meet him. Even, I would have to say, as much as I was thrilled to receive an award, was to meet Chaplin and shake his hand.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, William Friedkin. Thank you very much indeed for coming in the director's chair. Where is your Oscar, by the way?
In my bedroom, next to my wife's honorary Oscar.
That's a nice framing, nice pillars, twin pillars.
Yes, no, I'm not like those people who say, well, it's holding the bathroom door open or any of that. I'm very proud of it.
Congratulations. Well, so you should be, and thanks for coming on
Thank
the
you,
Jason.
Jason.
To talk about French.
Pleasure.